who have joined us. Thank you so much, everyone, for yet again an overwhelming response for the Ability webinars. We have made some changes for you to make it more convenient and easy for you all to register for the Ability webinars, and also maintain a record of all the webinars that you have attended in the past and find those webinars easily under your Ability account. Hope that has helped you in the process of registering for the webinar and also staying updated about the upcoming events of Ability. If you do want to share a feedback about the new process with us, please do write to us at support@ability.com. So on that note, let's get started with today's event. Today, we'll be talking about, like I already mentioned, how to supercharge your career in special education, especially in a therapy center, by Dr. Jagmeet Chawla. She's a developmental pediatrician and also the founder of Aadhaar Center for Counseling and Therapy based out of Bhopal, India. Thank you so much, Dr. Chawla, for joining us. We'd be speaking more about her a little later. Let me tell you a little bit about Ability. For us as an organization, all carers of children with special needs, that is, special educators, therapists, professionals, and of course, parents. You all are at the center of our universe. Our mission is to make things easier for you so that every child should be given the opportunity to thrive, because every child wants to thrive, right? And one way we have been able to do that is through technology. But we also realize that while technology could help a lot, technology alone is insufficient. And therefore, like other support systems, just as technology, we also bring to you community and other resources, because no one should have to do this alone, right? We bring to you a host of resources and the support from community members to enable the best chance of discovering your child's true potential. One of the ways we have been doing that is through our YouTube channel, which has over hundreds of useful videos from experts from different arena and from the field of special education to advise you on how to help your child better. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel and you are a professional in this field, let me tell you that you're missing out on something. So please do go and subscribe that channel right away, and I'm pretty sure you'll have a lot of new things to learn from. You could also follow us on Facebook. By the way, I would like to mention there, if you want the link to our YouTube channel, that is being shared by our team members in the chat box right now, and also the link to our Facebook page. So you could follow us on Facebook. Thousands of people have already followed us. The numbers are much higher than they look in this particular screen. But if you want to join the crowd, do follow us and stay updated with all the upcoming events, workshops, and webinars from T-Ability. So like I was talking about workshops and webinars, these are our offerings. Today's webinar is no different. Today we'll be talking about how to supercharge your career in special education. This is for the purpose of foundational knowledge building. Apart from that, a little different concept is of the workshops, where we conduct sessions with experts in a smaller group setting to facilitate better interaction and live interaction with the expert, so that you can get to learn from the expert directly. If you haven't yet experienced an Ability workshop, do keep an eye on your inbox and register for the next one as soon as you're informed. And on that note, let us come to our speaker for the day, Dr. Jagmeet Chawla, Founding Director of Aadhaar Center. She's an expert faculty for advocacy and capacity building programs for UNFPA, UNICEF, NHM, MPSA, TS, and IGNOU, WaterAid, a number of NGOs. Wow, the list is quite long. And like we were just chatting before the session began, she has over 30 years of experience as a general pediatrician and over 16 years of experience as a developmental pediatrician. So what you're going to learn from today is also from her years of experience, which is going to be pretty valuable. She has participated as speaker in many advocacy programs for parents, teachers, and principals in various schools and colleges of Bhopal and also other cities, presented numerous papers in national conferences, and has been facilitated and honored with numerous awards. Thank you so much, Dr. Chawla, for joining us today. We are so very grateful to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Swati, and wonderful, wonderful welcome that you've given me. And love to be back on the Ability platform. And a very warm good afternoon to everybody attending this. Thank you so much. And I think let's start as soon as. Should I start?
Yeah, sure, of course. I would not take any more of your time. And I would like to mention Dr. Chawla has been one of our first few speakers with whom we kind of began the Ability webinar. So glad to have you here with us back again.
Actually, I
Let's
think,
get started.
Swati, it's a small correction. I think I was the first speaker on the first webinar was we started off during the pandemic. So
right,
it was a
totally.
completely different experience for all of us, and wonderful to see the community of Ability growing so beautifully. So let us start today's webinar with how do we supercharge our career as a special educator. Over here, when we are talking about special educator, I think it is largely a synonym term for any kind of therapist. So I'm not going to be saying a speech therapist separately or a remedial teacher separately or an occupational therapist or a physiotherapist. So we've taken everything under the blanket of special educator. So if we are working in this career, if we are working in this field, if we are working in this specialty, in this domain, so all of us are together over here. So we all are like, for simplicity's sake, let's put it all as special educator. So the first reason is that I think we should be asking ourselves is that why are we into this career? Why did I pick up this career? Why did I take up special education? Any special reasons? Why not? Do I really like teaching? Do I like teaching normal children or do I like teaching children with special needs? So what is it that really attracted me to this career? So I think each one of us should give it a lot of introspection, because this introspection helps us to understand ourselves better and also to understand why we are into this career and give it our best shot, and also give us the maximum happiness, because when you follow your passion, your passion leads you to places where nothing else can lead you. So if I like teaching, if I like teaching special needs children, then this is definitely a fantastic choice. Is the financial remuneration good? Is there a need for special educators? Or did I pick up this career because I'm a parent or I'm a sister or I'm a caregiver or I'm a relative with somebody with special needs? Most often, this is also the case because people generally are not aware about what it takes to be a special educator or a carer in the field of special education. So once you have a child with special needs, your attitude, your perspective, everything changes tremendously. So were it any of these reasons? Or if because there was no other option and you saw vacancies or somebody told you, okay, there is a lot of scope in this career, so you can take up this career. So do introspect, do ask yourselves, why am I taking up this career? If you start with the wrong
Chawla,
yes.
No, I was just going to interrupt you for going to the full screen mode, but I think so you have already switched. Thank you so much. Sorry.
So if you start with the wrong reasons, that is, if you really started with there's a vacancy, or I think I heard that the financial remuneration is good, or the people nowadays need special educators, or whatever reasons, the reason has to be right. And what is right or wrong? Nobody decides right or wrong. We ourselves decide it. So the bottom line is, look into your heart, ask yourselves, be very clear about it. And if it is something that is your calling, do go ahead. But if you do not like it, if you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, please do not continue, because you might find it really, really difficult to keep up with it. You might find it absolutely frustrating because the patience required is tremendous, because the returns may not be the way you expected it. It's not a corporate job. It's not the kind of remunerations which generally people or youngsters expect from other places. So the reason has to be right. So the reason to do the job has to be right. The reason to take up this profession has to be right. So my first request to every person aspiring to be a special educator is, please get into it for the right reasons. And if you're not into it for the right reasons, and please believe me that right or wrong is not something which society decides. It's just what your heart decides. What may be absolutely wrong for you may be completely right for me. So don't let anybody take decisions for you. Take your decisions through your heart, through your soul, more than anything else. What do we need to become a good special educator? What do we need to become anything good in any field? You require attitude, you require knowledge, you require skills. Generally, we talk about it as KAS, knowledge, attitude, skills. I have put attitude first because of this reason which I was talking about, that the passion to be a special educator needs to be there. So attitude is first, knowledge is second, and the skills are third. So what do I mean by attitude? Attitude means you need to be somebody who's got a heart for children with special needs. So it takes someone special to teach someone special. So if I say a child has special needs, I think we also need to be special in our own hearts. So the same reiteration, if your heart beats really strong for children with special needs or adults with special needs, or to make a difference to the lives of people with special needs, or help out anybody with special needs, and again, please, please, please do not take it as a pitying attitude or as a sympathetic attitude. It is just that we just need to give them the space, the environment, and to help them reach their best potential, like we help each one of us reach our best potentials. What are the skills that are required? Patience, patience, patience. I think I should write patience 5 times because the most important is patience. Compassion has to come in. Empathy, very, very necessary, because unless you start feeling the way the child with special needs feels, you cannot understand what the problems of the child is. And good communication skills. So the communication skills need to be at par with like you need to communicate with the parents, you need to communicate with the children, you need to communicate with a lot of people. So if your communication skills are not up to the mark, if people tell you, you say something, you mean something, when you say something, you're not absolutely to the point, or you're not as understanding as you should be, work on it. It's not difficult. It is one of those soft skills that just needs a little working upon. And the easiest way to do it is, for every child with special needs, just think about it that it's your sister's child, it's your brother's child. It's so easy to get good communication skills. How would you feel if if you're the carer, or if you're a person looking after that child, and with that child going to a special educator, what would you want in that special educator? First of all, that are the things that you would be nurturing in yourself, building up in yourself. So that is what your portfolio is based upon. Knowledge. Knowledge is both types, formal as well as informal. So you have to have theory and practical knowledge, formal knowledge. In India, there are a lot of special education courses, B.Ed in special education, which is a B.Ed degree, that is a Bachelor of Education degree, but in special education is necessary to be working into this field. You can also do foundation courses, but all these courses need to be certified by RCI. And frequently brushing up knowledge is very important. Hands-on knowledge is very important. Just theoretical knowledge will not help us at all, because it's the skills which are the most important. So how do we build up our knowledge basis? We have to attend events, we have to interact, we have to talk more, we have to gain knowledge from wherever we can. We have to gain hands-on information from whichever platform is available. What is certification? This is compulsory. RCI stands for the Rehabilitation Council of India. So certification by Rehabilitation Council of India is very necessary, especially for anybody working in the field of disability. So if you're working with PWDs, that is person with disability, you have to have an RCI certification. If you're even working as a counselor with disabled children, you need to have a certification from RCI. If you're working as a therapist, as a speech therapist, as a special educator, as a remedial teacher, this is absolutely essential. CRE points are the points which we accumulate by continuous education. The continuous education which RCI offers through its study centers to gain the CRE points, which are completely necessary. So these are absolutely necessary, and there are a certain number of points, approximately 100 points per year or so, depending on the therapist, whether it's a speech therapist or a special educator or whatever, and you need to complete those points. Continuous learning, continuous updating yourself. And how do you achieve the certification? You go to the RCI websites, you find out the RCI centers, and you take up a course which has RCI certification. For physiotherapists, for occupational therapists, you need to be registered with the Paramedical Council of India, that is in India particularly. To be a pediatrician and a developmental pediatrician, you need to be registered with the Medical Council of India. Everything else needs to be registered with the Rehabilitation Council of India. So now we come to supercharging our career, the topic for today. We say, what exactly, how do I supercharge my career? And why do I need to supercharge my career? Why do I need to even charge my career? I'm happy the way I am. Or am I happy the way I am? That is a question, again, we need to ask ourselves. So if people say, are you successful? Are you happy? Are you earning well? What is your position? So this generally is how we are taught to measure success. What is my salary? What is my job title? What is my educational qualification, etc., etc. So am I working, like how successful I am? This is what we've been taught all these years. But is it enough? Is this enough to understand what success is? I have a very good job title. I have fantastic salary, and my salary is helping me for everything that I want. All my needs are getting fulfilled. I have a beautiful car. I've taken up a house. I've put up the mortgage, whatever. I keep buying stuff. So I know that buying stuff gives me tremendous happiness. So I'm happy. But at the end of the day, maybe I'm not happy. So if I'm not happy, am I successful or am I not successful? So another question, I think today's webinar is a lot of introspection questions. So again, you need to ask yourself that, are we really successful? Am I really successful or am I not successful? Secondly, does special education give me that kind of opportunities that I can be successful? So does this offer an opportunity? Definitely yes. We tend to think maybe special educators do not get as good an opportunity as general teachers or administrators. But the opposite is true. There is a huge opportunity, because that huge opportunity gives us, why is there a huge opportunity? Because the most important thing is that we are making a fantastic impact into the lives of people. What is the income we are earning? Now, particularly, like I can talk about India, and I think most other countries also. For example, the Central Board of Secondary Education, CBSE, which is a major affiliation center and the board which runs 80% of the schools in India, made it compulsory for every school to have a counselor. 2 years back, they made it compulsory for every school to have a special educator. So now with the new education policy coming into force and which will start very soon being rolling out, I think the opportunity is going to increase much, much more. So this will give us a fantastic opportunity to again have an income that we want, in addition to giving us a personal satisfaction and creating an impact. So in short, it is a win-win situation. If you really like this profession, you are getting an opportunity to make a difference and also get a fantastic job title also. So just to go into the statistics, the number of special educators needed is 1.5 million. And actually, we just have about 150,000 available right now. So see the gap available. See the gap which needs to be filled. So who will fill that gap? I think all of us, where the heart is beating for special needs children. We come to the answer about whether the success was job title and salary or something else. So a better measure which really appeals to my heart is this for success, that you have a good job title, you have a good salary, but just see what part of the quadrants that they are. What is the most important thing? I have fantastic mental health. I have good physical health. I love what I do and I have free time for myself. So I think this is a really better measure of success rather than just having a very good job title and a salary and being able to tell people what I do and how much I earn or what is my position in society today. So another thing for introspection, please look into this. When we work in a therapy center, what exactly are we doing in a therapy center? Therapy centers are those centers which generally offer interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary interventions for children of all kinds. Let me tell you from my example of Aadhaar Center since the last 16 years. So we are attending to children with disabilities, mild, moderate, and severe. We have very few children with severe disability because our basic concept is that we want to mainstream children as much as possible. The tagline that we live by and we breathe day in and day out is that the only disability is in the mind, and that is a bad attitude. So we all are disabled to some degree or the other. And children with mild or moderate disability can very, very well attend mainstream schools, mainstream, like they can do everything what we all can do. I may be disabled in a few things, but my disabilities are not evident. So I come into the normal category. My child with a speech impediment or my child with autism may not come under the normal category. But with therapy, that child can definitely come out of it. Why do I say severe children is little difficult? Because severe children, all that we can achieve is some degree of helping them achieve their own independence about activities of daily living, handling themselves, handling their own grooming, where to whatever extent, expressing their needs. And more often than not, severe disability children definitely need either a full-time help or they need to be in special schools. But I strongly believe that mild to moderate do not need any special schools. They just need to be mainstreamed as soon as possible and as beautifully as possible in an inclusive setup, which also need not be termed as inclusive, because we do not say that in my house is inclusive because my younger brother is special needs. Do I call my house an inclusive house? No. So why should I call my school an inclusive school? So if given an opportunity, I would banish all these words, because all these every person has every right to be in society, in school, in a normal setup. The example that I very typically give to my parents also is that this child with disability, we are all going across the same highway. Maybe we are going in a car, somebody is going in a Mercedes, and this child is going in a auto or a cycle. The child will eventually reach the destination, maybe a little later. That's all the difference that there is. So there is nothing much more beyond that. And there is no need to hype it up and say, oh my God, this one is disabled, so we can't do this and we can't do that. Everything can be done. The disability is just in our minds. Therapy centers, our center, we are very proud to say, is a completely child-centric center, a holistic center with multidisciplinary approach. So how does a multidisciplinary approach help us? It helps us by working on the child and not on the disability as such. So what do I mean by that? That working on a child, maybe the child has a speech impediment, maybe the child has cerebral palsy associated, and also cognitive disability. So we have people working, we have the therapists working on all the three things, but the child is the most important person in the center of the universe. What are the particular challenges that we face, which are a little different from other domains, like say working in a normal school, etc. Special education is definitely much more difficult because rapport buildings is a little more difficult. Behavior issues are difficult to handle. And another thing is that the assessments have to be really good, because if you do not have a good assessment with you, or you cannot do a good assessment, or you do not have access to a good assessment, then everything goes down the drain. You really do not know what you are doing. The IEP, the individual education program, how correct is it? What are the short-term goals? What are the long-term goals? How are we handling the goals? Are we reaching the goals? Are we not reaching the goals? Is it necessary for us that we reach every goal that we explicitly state in our IEP? All these are points to be really taken into consideration. Legal issues, what are the things that we can do? What are the things that we cannot do? What comes under legal purview? So we have to be careful about those things. Communication with parents is most important, because parents are already socially ostracized. They are overwhelmed by the disaster in their lives. They have still not got over it. There are very few parents who have, through their resilience, got over these problems. So this communication with parents needs to be the most important challenge. But believe me, if you are authentic and if you talk from your heart, and be realistic. Don't promise them the moon. Don't promise them things which are unattainable. Promise only that which is doable. And be very clear about the fact that results take time, a lot of time, sometimes immensely long time. So this communication with parents is the key to everything, because that helps us put everybody on the same page. What are the strategies? Engage with the student, be as authentic, positive, and optimistic as possible. Be very clear with instructions, be patient. Repeat as many times as necessary. See, the only difference is a child with an intellectual disability and a child with a normal IQ. The difference is we might have to repeat things 20 times with that child and 3 times with a normal child, with a normal IQ child. But if I have the patience to do it, the gratification is fantastic. Be clear with instructions. That is really, really important. And break up instructions into small task analysis. Be personal with each child and with each parent and make it a fun experience. We don't have to put our glasses up and be stern and be the matron around and say, oh my God, this is not done and that is not done. Why do we not need be playful? Play helps us engage with the children better. Play helps us reach our children's hearts better. And play has now, research has proved that if something is taught to children through play, the repetitions, the child learns something maybe by 3 or 4 repetitions. And if the same thing is taught by a normal education pattern without play, just by being a strict teacher, we might take up to 150 to 200 times repetition. So this is the latest research which I was just going through, and I was really impressed by it. And parents need to be reminded to enjoy the home activities as much as possible, not take it as a burden or as a core which they have to do. Oh my God, the child's homework has to be done. Oh my God, the child's this has to be done. So as much as whenever we enjoy something, we'll definitely do it better. When we work from home, that is especially the online working that we have all been used to now, it's very important to take care of a few things. Be very professional, have a fixed routine. Do not say, okay, I'm working from home, so I can be dressed in any which way I want. I need not be professional because I'm not going out of the house. No, it's important to get into the act, feel that you're in the therapy center. Keep praising the parents. Positive reinforcement actually works miracles. Believe it or not, try it, it will work miracles. Be soft on yourself because you are also learning. Plan the lessons well, keep very diligent records, keep connected with the parents, review DCR. DCR I'll talk about much more in my next slide, and collaborate and connect with colleagues as much as possible. What is documentation and why is it important? DCR is a daily child record. The most important part about it is that you yourself know what it is that the child is achieving. See, every day, if you take a daily child record, you might, like somebody might ask me, like I have my therapist asking me, ma'am, every day we are writing the same thing for a week. The child is not, like the improvement is very static or it's very, very slow. So I said, doesn't matter. At the end of the week, also, if the child is doing the same thing, that doesn't matter. We have a record so that we know how much patience we need and how much the child is going to be able to achieve. So the daily child record is really important and it has to be very authentic. Don't think that if I do not write increments in the child's progress, the parents might get angry or the parents might stop coming to me. No, the parents have to be brought on the same, absolutely same page, and they are completely aware. If a child of 4 years has not developed speech, do you think you can achieve speech in 1 month? No. So be clear about it, be absolutely succinct about it, and be very, very precise and authentic. Review your methodology, keep revising, and discuss the methodology, which has to be, the SOPs have to be perfect, they have to be systematic, and they have to be in place. Home activities, which we tell the parents to do, because that is the most important. You're giving the child 1 hour therapy in the center or a 2 hour therapy in the center, but the home activity is what the child is repeating again and again. So it has to be according to the IEP, the number of repetitions. Again, overzealous parents might start overdoing it. So no overdoing. And before the next therapy class, review the home activities. Why is listening important? Listening, again, if parents need educators, educators need parents, educators need other educators and professionals, doctors need educators, educators need doctors. We all need the community and we are all are a part of the community. So how we work at the center is most important. How we work with others is most important. At the center, a speech therapist has to be working in sync with the special educator. The special educator has to be working in sync with the remedial teacher or with the occupational therapist or with the physiotherapist. You cannot isolate one therapy from the other therapy. So the plan has to be made together, the working has to be made together, the discussions have to be together, and there is no competition. Believe me, the competition should be just that how much has the child improved from the previous day, not with each other. Each other's competition will just hamper the working of the center. Each other's competition will hamper the working with the child and there will be no progress. So we won't be adding on to anything, neither the child's quality of life, neither the parent's quality of life. And most importantly, we will be having a detrimental effect on our own quality of life. So we need to be very clear about it. Listening with others is very important because maybe somebody, the best practices of somebody are really beneficial and we can learn a lot with each other. And there is so much to learn, especially we realized listening with others was like in the sense of listening with professionals we all knew. Believe me, during COVID, when we went online with Aadhaar Center with special therapy needs, and we were one of the first centers in the country to go online, the parents were the major source which helped us with listening. They sent us videos, they sent us photographs, they sent us activities, and they sent us the innovative stuff that they were doing at home, which one parent shared with us, which helped 20 other parents. So their listening comes into actual action that everybody has ideas. So share your ideas and listening really helps. Adapting to changing times is really important. And COVID 2019 brought a paradigm shift in our thinking. We were online earlier, but I think it was very sporadic and very erratic. But with COVID, we went online full time. And we've now developed a hybrid model of online and offline therapy, which is doing beautifully. So the need to adapt to changes is what helps us progress in life better and add meaning to everybody's life. What are the challenges of online therapy in comparison to therapy at the center? The COVID brought unprecedented times and times of crisis. So we went into this and that was a need. So this need pushed us into it. So here we need to take into account that what are the necessary tools, because the tools will really differ. It will be very difficult to manage the child online. The child may or may not be sitting in front of the screen. The child may or may not cooperate. The parents may not be able to make the teaching learning materials the way you want them to, but you will have to adapt to them. You will have to see what they can do, and maybe they can do it better than what we are thinking about. And these lessons need to be adapted to make meaningful online lesson plans. And most important, the last two steps are the most important. The strategy for monitoring is immensely important, because without correct monitoring and mentoring, you cannot get into this online therapy. And the processes and systems need to be really systematic and universal, because doing anything and everything and not being aware about what we are doing will not help us at all. Maintaining motivation, one of the most important factors, again by the same things, we need to keep ourselves self-motivated, because if we are self-motivated, we can help our parents. So we keep on motivating our parents. Like they very rightly say, what we have inside you, you can only give out. If I have a glass of water and there is water in my glass, I can only give water. If I have tea, I can give tea. If you ask me for coffee, I'll be unable to give you coffee. So if I have that motivation inside me, the self-motivation, I can give it to you. So I think each one of us needs that tremendously. And how do we get that? Patience, compassion, childfulness, creativity, celebrate every small success, and most important, trust God and be thankful. Because there is nothing beyond trusting God, the maker of everything. And gratitude opens doors which you would never even be aware about. And gratitude bestows more and more blessings on us and on all the children that we work with and all the parents that we work with, and makes our life much more meaningful, much more useful. Thank you so much.
Wow. What a wonderful session, Dr. Chawla. I'm sure all the professionals who have joined us today must have learned a lot from this very informative session of yours. A lot of them have also sent us questions. So I would like to go to the questions straight away. But before that, I would like to inform our attendees that our next webinar is scheduled for 27th of February on the future of special education, who none other than the founder of Ability, Mr. Balaji Venkatesan, would be conducting the session. So if you're interested in joining the session, please find the link in the chat box right now, and you could register for it right away. I'm sure there'll be a lot of valuable learnings for you all to learn from there as well. Okay. And moving on to the questions that we have received for today's session. So without any further delay, I would ask the first one from Shantae. Forgive me and pardon me if I pronounce your name incorrectly, Shantae. So the question is, what is the best way to apply for your RCI certification if you are working and cannot attend daily classes for 2 years? RCI certification, like Dr. Chawla already explained in her slides, is one of the necessary certificates here in India to become a special educator. Dr. Chawla, over to you to elaborate and also to answer.
Thank you so much, Swati. A very good question. I think what you need to do is go on the RCI website and find out which which category you fall into: special education, speech therapist, or a rehabilitation psychologist, etc. And if you have done the course, you will also get a lot of information about how you can get the RCI certificate. There are a lot of study centers which offer long distance courses for RCI. So either those courses could be very helpful, and the CRE points need to be updated regularly. So you have to be very careful about your CRE points, because RCI is a little strict about the CRE points. And the RCI helpline and the RCI website gives a lot of information. And I think even if you mail to them, they will be able to answer a lot of your questions, because I would not be the best technical person to be answering because a lot of changes keep happening, a lot of updation happens. But what I understand is that if you're working for 2 years and there is lack of time to be going and attending sessions from morning to evening, so that should not be a very big problem, because a lot of courses are long distance. And when you have those CRE sessions, you could take leave from wherever you're working and attend the CREs.
Sure. Hope that answers your question. Okay, so the next one is from Radhika. Radhika is asking us, how could she benefit from taking special education as an additional degree when she is already a psychologist? And I'm sure this must be a question amongst other psychologists who have joined us for today's session. So, how would an additional degree in the field of special education help?
See, if you're a psychologist, now you have to be really very clear about whether you want to pursue psychology as a become like, why do you want to pursue psychology, and later take it whether you want to become a teacher, a college teacher, a school teacher, what calls you from within. So be very clear about that. If teaching is your profession or teaching is your calling, so then should not be any need for special education. But if working with special needs children or special PWDs, person with disabilities, is your calling, definitely a special education certification or whatever course you take up will be very helpful. One more thing which I would really want to tell everybody is, and a little request, that just doing a course will not help you at all. Find out about which courses gives you hands-on experience. Having knowledge about a course or just taking in theory knowledge is really not going to be helpful. So the hands-on knowledge, the skill set, the practical knowledge is what is really important, because unless you work, say suppose you want to work in the field of special education, there are people who've done courses in special education without even being in touch with or being personal with a person with special needs. So when you have no clue about how a person with special need reacts, or what is the child's needs, or how do you want to do for, like, how do you want to help the child further, so that will not help you. So you have to be very prudent about picking up the courses. You have to be very wise about all these things. And if working with special needs help is your calling, I would definitely recommend you to go ahead and do a course of special education.
Yeah. So listen to your calling and then go ahead, take your call accordingly. Hope that answers your question, Radhika. The next one is from Jayashri, which I think so is a very common question among all other professionals as well, based on my experience of attending the last few webinars. Jayashri is asking, many parents accepting their child's challenges has in fact become a big challenge. So, how do they create an atmosphere or a situation for the parents to first accept the challenges that their child or kid is dealing with in order to provide appropriate education and interventions as and when required?
Wonderful question, and I'm absolutely right, Swati. This is one question which is a key to success, I should say. So when parents come to us, believe me, they are really depressed, overwhelmed, and a lot of parents are even into a denial mode. That no, I think my child will start doing better. I don't know, the whatever they've taken help from, or whichever consultations they've taken, or whatever denial. So like I said in my slides also, be absolutely authentic, be honest, but be very gentle, very, very gentle. It's not easy to accept a diagnosis of a disability or a special needs or a challenge for any parent with their child. But most parents, when they come to you for a consultation, are aware about it. In spite of that fact, be really, really gentle with them, be empathetic, be compassionate, and tell them or make them feel and give them that kind of a confidence that we are all together in it together. So when we are in it together, and when the child's future depends on us being how positive or how negative, how optimistic or how pessimistic, and how strong we can be, and how much will our child be able to do. So be realistic, be authentic, be compassionate, be empathetic. And believe me, the the turnover comes maybe sooner, maybe later, but it definitely comes. And when that comes in, the parent empowerment is fantastic. And when parent empowerment, especially the mother empowerment, comes in, That is the turning point in the change in therapy. So I keep telling my parents that if I can understand that this is very difficult to digest, this is very difficult to take in, but believe me that your child's future and the success of your child doing better, how good the child may be doing, will all depend on how strong you are and how positive you are. So definitely they change for they start becoming optimistic and encouraged.
Great. Yeah, totally. So empower the parent is the very strong mantra that you have given out to the professionals today. I'm sure most of them are listening. The next one is from Amira. She has a personal question for you, in the sense that when was the first time when you met a student with special needs? And the reason she is asking is what should a professional do at the first time when they are meeting a special child for the first time with their parents? So how should the approach be? What are some of the things that they should take care of?
Okay. Thank you so much, Amira. For me, when I was doing MBBS, I think that was the first time I came in contact with children with disabilities. And I was really fortunate that I studied in Mumbai, Lokmanya Tilak Municipal Hospital. And my mentor was Dr. Kulkarni, who ran a developmental clinic in Sion Hospital. So by default, we were supposed to be actually attending those clinics, and most of us were not very keen on it, because during MBBS, you are actually not completely aware about what you are doing and what you are not, frankly speaking. There is so much to know and so much to learn. And when we started doing that, that was a time I realized that everything else is just the same. Why are we just putting them into inverted commas? I mean, this is different. What is actually different? So that started me thinking, and it took me a very long time from my MBBS days to come to start opening Aadhaar, which was in 2005. But maybe like that was the direction, and God wanted me to take that many directions and curves along the way. So that was one of that. Your part two of the questions, Amira, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong or something, but the part two of the question is that how do you deal with a child with special needs? Deal with the child the way you deal with any child. A child is a child, full stop, period. The child may be your own child, the child may be your neighbor's child, the child may be your patient, the child may be your client, the child may be a child with multiple disabilities. A child is a child. So from your heart to the child's heart, there is only one way of love. Spread love, and believe me, everything else gets sorted out.
What a beautiful answer that was, Dr. Chawla. Loved it completely. No child is different. Every child is just a child first. And that's the way, that's the method you should follow while trying to figure out how you should face them or meet them for the first time or any other times, I believe. That's what you want to say. Okay. The next one is from Cherry. Cherry is asking us that with this new normal setup that we are dealing with today, and no physical contact to teach or reach out to a special child, how can we as professionals ensure that how effective is the online learning program, and is it necessary, and is it doing the things that are required to be done? For example, she has a very particular case to quote for a 5-year-old with ADHD. So I would like you to answer that question for any child in particular. What are some of the ways that they can adapt?
It's a wonderful question, and the monitoring is again very, very important. So now if you are dealing with a child with ADHD, like for example, let's take up this example, or a child with any other problem. So you need to be very clear, number one, about the diagnosis, about the assessment, about what is the IEP, who has made the IEP, what therapy the child was receiving earlier, and what should be the plan for the child. So everything has to be very, very systematic. And once it's systematic, then you plan the lessons and make them, transfer them for online lessons. Because with ADHD, believe me, it's very difficult to get the child sitting in front of you. ADHD is one place, one thing in special needs in developmental pediatrics, which, because even though I'm a pediatrician myself and a general practicing pediatrician, I do not give medicines at all. I give medicines minimally in my developmental pediatrics practice. But with ADHD, if the assessment shows us that the child definitely needs medication, the child needs to be under medication through a developmental pediatrician, because plain therapy will not help the child. So now that has to be very clear. The medication has to be monitored. The side effects of the medications have to be clear to the parents. The medication needs to be going on for a little longer time. The medication needs to be reviewed periodically. The therapy pattern, the therapy program needs to be reviewed periodically. So the monitoring is very important. Frankly speaking, my take on special education is that it is not a treatment in isolation or a therapy in isolation. It needs teamwork, it needs proper monitoring, it needs systems in place, and it needs documentation. Because very often what we see all over the world is that, and a lot of times in India, that there is no documentation, there is no systems, there is no processes, and there is no, you are not clear about what is happening. So don't get into this trap. Be clear about what you are doing. If your own child was in the second standard and suppose somebody asked you which grade is your child in, you would say second standard. Do you have the report card of first standard? Definitely. Do you have the report card of KG2? Definitely. So you have a progress report to show that your child has reached a stage of second standard, second grade with the previous year's grades. So why not with a special needs child? Why not with the therapy of a special needs child? So be very clear in your documentations, be very clear in your systems and your processes. And monitoring is definitely necessary.
Sure. Being clear with the documentation and process can help a lot. Cherry, hope that answers your question. The next one, Dr. Chawla, is from Priya. Priya is asking us, she's attending us and watching us live on Zoom, and she has sent a question via chat box. She wanted to ask if online courses on special education also have the same reputation as the offline courses. The particular case being if the institute is RCI verified, but the course that they are offering is not. So does that affect the quality of the course? This is what Priya wanted to understand from us.
Yeah, I'm not very clear about the question that you've asked, because if the center is RCI recognized for their offline, so I think the complete information should come in from the center, whether their online course is RCI registered or not, and RCI certified or not, and whether they are giving RCI certification for their online courses as well. Because I'm really not too sure about it, that if a center is offline registered with RCI and they've started a new course on online therapy, whether it has equal validity or not. So I think the center would be the best place to ask, because if RCI has not given them a validation certificate, so I mean, I am nobody to be able to answer that question.
Sure. But Priya, at least now you know where to go and what to ask. Hope that will help you in a little better way. Moving on to the next question from Brian. Brian is asking us, what classroom management strategies can we implement or employ so that special education students can eventually migrate to an inclusive education setup? If you have some advices or strategies for Brian.
This is a whole webinar in itself. Classroom strategies to help our children with special needs. A lot of classroom strategies and very small tips which would make wonderful changes. Like, for example, we talked about a child with ADHD. So make the child with ADHD sit in the first row of the child, just next to the teacher. Make the child the monitor, the blackboard monitor. So say maybe not that 5-year-old child, but the 7-year-old child with ADHD, make the child the blackboard monitor and the notebook collection monitor. So now the child with ADHD cannot sit, is very fidgety. So what does the child do? He's the blackboard monitor. Which child does not like becoming a monitor? Remember all our own childhood days? Oh, how much we were like in awe of the monitor and how much we always wanted to become the monitor. So totally. The child with ADHD, suppose he becomes the blackboard monitor, the prerequisite being that he has to write down everything, complete his work, copying from the blackboard before rubbing it. So every time the teacher needs to rub the blackboard with the duster, this child runs up and does it. So he's the monitor. He gets to do something which is so wonderful. Then he gets to collect the notebooks. But again, the condition should be that his notebook should be complete. Believe me, this child will work towards it.
Sure.
Suppose you have somebody with a visual impairment, and a teacher comes in and says, look at the board, because most of our learning is visual and auditory. So the teacher has to make the lesson more meaningful because of that one child sitting in a group of 40 children. So how will the teacher make the lesson more meaningful? Will help all the 39 other children as well. So very small strategies, a whole webinar, I think a whole webinar, or it can go into a whole day in itself.
But definitely you did help Brian here in terms of what are some of the things that can be done. And since it is too broad a question, maybe we would try and come up with more sessions which can cover this question in greater detail. Since you already pointed out time, I would like to inform our attendees we are running short of time. So we will take two last questions for today's session. The last second question is from Madhumita. She is asking if she could, is it possible to find a person who has expertise both in occupational therapy as well as special education, and if licenses are necessary for being both a special educator and a therapist? If you could help Madhumita here.
Madhumita, for occupational therapy, you need to be registered with the Paramedical Council of India. It's a course called BOT, which is a three-year course like BPT, the Bachelor in Physiotherapy. So if you are an occupational therapist and who has a special fondness, let me put it, for being a special educator or something, you can definitely do a course. But what I would recommend is that be a master of something rather than being a jack of everything. Working in a center with multidisciplinary therapies would definitely help you know what a special educator is doing and take in inputs from that special educator rather than doing a course in, say, special education and BOT together. So do something which is like more pertaining to one field, try to become an expert in that field and learn through collaborations and licensing as much as possible. That is my personal take. Maybe I may not be right, but like I said, there is nobody who's completely right and nobody who's completely wrong. So do what your heart tells you to do, more importantly.
Wonderful, Dr. Chawla. That is a lesson and learning that I am definitely taking away from today's session. Do what your heart tells you to do. And I think so that's the best way to answer some of the questions within. Okay, so the last question for today's session is from Shamraj. Shamraj is asking us if you could advise how to approach assessments or screening in particular for identifying children with specific learning disorders, or if you would recommend some of the checklists for dyslexia as such.
The assessment for learning disability is pretty comprehensive. And it is not a very easy thing to be just using a checklist and doing it. Again, you need to be a certified therapist or a certified psychologist to be able to do those assessments. And in addition, I think the whatever certificate, the learning disability certification, whoever's got a certification or an assessment report needs to be a properly trained rehabilitation psychologist who's a certified psychologist. Just using the checklist would just help you understand that, okay, this child has a learning difficulty problem. But to be able to classify into whether what kind of a specific learning disability it is, whether this child is eligible for a disability certificate, what is the therapy pattern that you need to do, what is the remedial teaching, where you need to intervene, what are the domains, what are the strengths of the child. I think you need a very comprehensive a plain checklist would not help you at all. A plain checklist would just give a very cursory idea about a child having a learning difficulty or something, and child being in need of help more than anything else.
Sure. So maybe a comprehensive approach is what Dr. Chawla would advise to you, Shamraj. Maybe you would want to seek some expertise in that arena. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, Dr. Chawla, for yet again a wonderful session from the platform. what would you like to say about today's session before we conclude it?
Thank you so much, Swati, and thank you so much, Ability. And wonderful, because the questions were also amazing. I mean, to the point. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you once.
Loved having you here once again. Dear attendees, do share your feedback about today's session. We are looking forward to your advices and more ways to improve the experience further for you. So the link for the feedback form is being shared in the chat box right now. Do share your feedback about the session, and also do not forget to register for the next webinar from the Ability series on 27th of February. If you are one of those being involved in the sphere of special education, I am pretty sure you're going to enjoy the experience from the next webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. That brings us to the end of today's session.